Good morning, everybody. Hope you are at the right place. Okay.
No.
All right. So my name is Wei Fang. I'm the Associate Dean for Information Technology at Rutgers Law School, Newark location. My primary job is to oversee operations for classrooms and maintain IT infrastructure down there. So my group composes classrooms and IT and pretty much everything linked to that topic. Okay, so we have access to networks, etc. I don't know for your specific situation that's the case, but if you only have access to classroom, you may have to work with your IT group to get some projects done that I'm going to talk in this presentation. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Technology in classrooms is nothing new. It's been there for like forever, like 30, 40 years, right? So why we are here, talk about classrooms. Well, today I'm going to talk about a little bit different. For those of you who know me, I'm pretty much a DIYer throughout my life. For the past 5 years, it turned out to be a great benefit to me because during COVID, I was able to do my own research and educate myself and finish projects that otherwise would be impossible because short of staff, short of resources, and also some vendors, they refuse to work, because of the COVID. So when everybody, after the pandemic is over, everybody switched back from hybrid to in-person. We had to get all the classroom ready. That turned out to be very handy for me. So here we are. I'm just summarizing what I learned throughout my projects. I've renovated all my classrooms, like 15, 20 some learning spaces in the building for the law school. Here is a brief overview. Okay, the number one thing is, as a DIYer, the number one rule is know what you can and you cannot do. Okay, so for me, what I learned was I have to deal with physical plant, or if you have facilities or any other term in that area, they do something like running power cables, hanging TV stands, or mounting TVs for you. Don't do it yourself because there is a liability issue there. Okay. You won't get your hands cleaner from there. Other than that, you need to know audio, the principle of audio and video. And then with this tool, you can get some sense of how the content sharing is working. Okay? And then the next big thing, the hidden unsung hero, is the network. Everything nowadays is connected to the network. That's why at the very beginning, I asked you if you have access to your network infrastructure, or if you have some context that can help you to do this, okay? Another big thing is cabling. That is, I learned it the hard way, okay? I'm a cheap guy, so I buy the cheapest cable possible on the market. Then it turned out, oh boy, I'm going to cry, but anyhow, that is a big mistake. You should not go cheap on cabling, because that is your nerve system of the classroom, okay? You got a nerve-shorted system, you are going to be cold every day, all right? Then the control. I'm not going to go over all this in details, in the next 25 minutes or so. The control part is something that you can learn by yourself. You may not be a programmer, but now, especially with what Extron is offering, I think it's easy enough for pretty much everybody who has a sound logic, to get things working to the way that they want to do. All right, so start with audio. Here, the crappy Mac with the crappy headset, that is your typical setup for your personal use. If you have a larger group, that would be something like this, right? Table Macs. Well, they don't have table Macs. They have in-seating Macs here. They got 3. They are not cheap, by the way. At my location, we have something like the sitting drop Macs, like this one, the little tiny ball. It's actually a microphone array, a matrix that pointing to different directions. That is what they have now, like this one, the one with green lights. These are like $4,000 each. I don't know where they got it sourced, but it's roughly $4,000 each. If you have a low ceiling, you can do something like this, directly mounting to replace your seating house and get it replaced. If you have a high seating, you can have something like a dropping down type of seating mics, okay? Traditionally, you have to cover segment your classrooms into small groups like this. They are doing that too. So if you think about it in a column way, they are covering that, based on the segments. 3 segments covering pretty much the entire room with this one for local audio reinforcement. That involves audio files, and it will be very difficult for someone who has zero background to get into that field, because especially when you're dealing with local audio reinforcement, it's very different. It's very difficult, because you have to deal with echo cancellation and make sure there's no feedback, etc. So very difficult task. I would not suggest you to go there if you have to do local audio reinforcement. However, for Zoom type of video conferences, if you want to do it, you can do it. Okay. Nowadays, to make things easier, they have this soundbar / microphone array. This particular one that we deploy a lot in my school is called the Noreva. This particular model is actually L300. It's very easy to install. Only one cable, a PoE cable that provides signal and power. It's just one bar like this size. You mount it like so in your classroom and then connect to your computer. This little box provides power and DSP, digital signal processing, and then convert everything into USB connector, and then you can hook it up with your PC. Okay. In my location, we used to use dedicated video conference codecs, but very expensive. They have annual maintenance cost. We stay away from it, so we end up, especially during COVID, we swapped all those old codecs out. We replaced them with just regular PCs. We drove WebEx, Zoom in PC, and they worked out great. And then you have more flexibility in terms of equipment that they can choose. Okay, a little bit hardcore thing. Audio, very simple stuff, starting from 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 connector on your headset phone jack. That is still there. It's very popular because it's just cheap. However, just remember it's unbalanced, meaning you may get interfering if you run it in length, or you have a very noisy environment. Not audible noisy, but electronic noise. Okay, it's not balanced. XLR, on the other hand, has been there like forever, since 1940s, 50s. That's the stage, what they use for stage. That one is balanced. It can cancel out pretty much all the interference that you have. Okay. And then you have this. On some of the controllers, you're going to deal with captive screw connectors. Specifically, there are 2 types. One is called phonics, and the other one is Euroblock. The one in green is Euroblock, others are just phonics. Okay? The Euroblock ones here, they got little teeth. I don't know if you can see it, but the phonics one, the teeth are up front. Okay? So they are not interchangeable. You are going to pay a lot on this type of connectors. They're not that cheap. Okay? Then back to, these type of connectors, they have a length limit. Okay, you cannot run them long. So for a classroom like this, you may have problems running cables underneath, going into conduit, then go into the wall, and then go up in the ceiling. That is not a direct connection. You have to go around, and so you have to calculate all that in. Once you run over the limitation, this limitation, you will either to get an amplifier which may give you more noise on your system, or you go with downtime. Okay, the downtime technology converts or connects your regular XLR connectors, convert them into a Cat5 cable or Cat6 cable. Then transmit. You can plug it into your network switch. Then you can pick it up using downtime controller and start doing your routings that way. Okay, that will have no physical length limitation. All right, that's one good thing for downtime. They are not cheap though. Okay, you need to have a designated The network switch are just regular network switch. However, you need to have controller software, etc., and you need to run a cable just for this device. This is another one provided by Extron. That's the backend. That's the phonics connector type, not XLR. Okay, but still they're doing pretty much the same thing. Convert everything into Dante, transmit everything into your Cat5. Dante is your protocol, okay, or the policy that you have to follow. The Cat5 or Cat6 is the physical media that actually carrying the signal. Okay, don't just limit yourself to thinking, you know, Cat5 or Cat6 is just for network. No, they're not. They are very good. So here is a kind of view for Dante, how it's going to be routed differently. You can control them. This is the Dante control software from Extron. You can route them from a input into different outputs. Okay, then you can copy your program into the controller, and your controller will behave the way you design. All right, more than that, we just talk about the cabling for the audio part, right? The different connectors, etc. If you want to like split your signal, like you have two different resources, you have two different set of speakers, for instance, you have to split your signal. Then you have to use something called a splitter. If you have two inputs, you want to connect to one input on your system, then you have to have a mixer. Okay? The amplifier, everybody knows that, just amplifying your signal from teeny tiny voice to a voice that's loud enough to have loudspeakers like those are in the city. Okay? Then the DSP. DSP, you may not need it if you're dealing with a small classroom, but again, if you're dealing with a large classroom or you have local audio reinforcement tasks that you have to perform, then DSP is a must. What DSP does, the digital signal process does, is to equalize different frequencies to make it sound better. That's one. Then number two is for local audio cancellation or acoustic echo cancellation. Right? Then you can have automatic gain control. What that means is you have different mics, like this one you have like 3, and here you have another one. They all got my voice in different level. So you may have different outputs on from the same resource. The AGC will just level it to a flat volume that you set. Okay? Then the routing that I showed in the previous slides. You can route it from one input to other outputs or vice versa. Those are the filters or the echo cancellation modules that you can put in, and you can see that this is from input and then go out to different outputs through those filters. Okay. Once you got that set up, get them transferred to your DSP, and your DSP again will behave the way that you configured. Okay. Maybe a little bit too much, but I hope that I don't scare you away. I'm trying to actually lure you in to do this kind of stuff. Okay. Because that will be beneficial to you guys. Anyhow, I'm going to talk about that later, how it will be beneficial. Let's do the video first. We start with audio, now we are in the video. Again, crappy webcams, right? You have those things in your laptop. You have those things on top of your Mac. They have a Axis network camera down there. That one connect to their network, and then you can pick up the signal, get it linked into your system. These are not. That is PTZ, means pan, tilt, and zoom. PTZ camera. Those are just stationary fixed focal. If you have an old camcorder that has a HDMI output, you can connect that device to your computer and use it as webcam. You have to buy something like this, though. This is dirt cheap, like $20. Where you have one HDMI input and that converts into a USB connector, then your PC will recognize your old camcorder as a input resource as a webcam. Or you can do it the other way around. You have a web camera, you want to connect to your system, to your class system. Your classroom system may have HDMI or the display port connectors. This one can make your classroom's AV system recognize your webcam as a video resource, okay? That's what we did in our classroom. That PTZ camera, like this, may cost you, this one in particular may cost you $4,000, okay? They are not cheap. But with a crappy camera, web camera like this, you can connect it to this box and then connect it into your AV system that will take it over as a regular video input, the same signal that camera will provide. So what you did is you shrink down a $4,000 camera into a $100 to $200 solution, okay? That's a significant reduction, and you didn't miss much, especially when you plan your camera position correctly. When you don't need the PTZ capabilities, that solves your 90% of problems, okay? All right, where are we? All right, this one is a little bit fancier, but this one is from one of our classrooms. We call it holodeck. It looks like this. You got 4 panels. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 panels connected to 4 codecs. Each codec connects to one of those cameras. Those are surgical grade camera, medical grade camera. High def, but again, even for Zoom, right now what we have is 1080p. Okay, you cannot go upward than that. You cannot. The resolution is no more than that. This one though, each camera is 1080p, so you got them 4 together. It effectively give you a 4K resolution. Okay, it's not really 4K, but it's up there. So it looked like this. All right. The photographer didn't do a good job, but it's better in person. I give you that immersiveness. Okay, Zoom that will not match it, but that's what we have there. Another one, I don't know how many of you heard this, but we have those things in our classrooms. This is a panorama camera. Okay, what it does is it gives you a, let me get it on here. It gives you something like this. Let me show you one of our classrooms. Something like this. This is a panorama view, right? So this is one of our classrooms like this one. We have that little camera will give you pretty much the same effect, but this is a still image. That one will give you a video. All right. All right. Oops. So many slices. All right. So we were here, we were talking about the panorama video camera. This one has an algorithm driving presenter mode. So it detects where the voice comes from and focus automatically to the speaker. Is better than you would imagine. Okay, and it segments your screen into different sections. The top section will always give you the panorama view so you know who is in the room. The bottom section will randomly selecting who is speaking and focus on that person. This one, I think it's like 1500. It's not that bad, but it requires a USB-C cable. That is another problem that I have to tell you, because USB-C can go upwards to 48 gigabit. Your regular USB connector will not allow you to do that. Regular transmitter will not allow you to have that high speed. You can only do fiber. Okay, you can only do fiber transmitter and receiver. That is expensive. The transmitter will be like 2K, the receiver will be pretty much the same. And you need up higher all those for the USB-C to be transmitted in a long distance. Otherwise, USB-C has a limitation of 15 meters. Longer than that, like if I position it over there, that's it. That's all I can do. I cannot go under and above. I cannot mount it on the ceiling, for instance, right? That requires me to put in like $5,000 to get that solution. Whether or not worth it, it really depends on your situation. Let me continue. I'm just focusing on too much. I'm running out of my time. The video part, I just talked about the camera. Okay, that's your input. What about output? They are using laser jet projectors. Those I think like $15,000 each. Too much for a DIY. Okay, I go back to what I said. I'm dirt cheap. So here I tested different brands of TVs. I tested the one that fits me the best is actually from Samsung because they offer something called X-Link port. Used to call X-Link. Now they are just regular USB. Okay, depending on the commercial. If you still have the commercial model, they may have X-Link like this marketed here. And it just look like this, a regular 3.5 millimeter connector, but then you have to have a serial port. Okay. The newest generation of TVs, they have this regular USB dongle. The other end on the back here is the female connector for the 3.5 millimeter. So you can plug in this and then get it converted to USB and then get it connected to the USB port here on the back of the TV. Then you have to go through the manufacturer factory manual to get your X-Link model activated. You will have your control afterwards. Your TV at that moment will be controllable by your room system. You can turn it on, switch into different resources, control volume, etc. I suggest you to do the serial control. You can do pretty much the same thing through IR, which is easy. However, IR will not be able to allow you to select input. It's in some appliances, in some applications, it's critical because if you cannot select input, you may have to buy a switcher. Okay. Whereas if you can select utilizing the TV inputs, you can avoid a $2,000 investment. Okay, you just use your TV's built-in feature to do the video switching. Okay, you can have it connect to your laptop, connect to your desktop like this. You avoid $2,000 spending. Okay, so it's all up to you. If you are confident, you can go with serial port connection. Otherwise, you can do IR. IR is cheap. For video, different things. I hope that you guys know this already. VGA is on its way out. It's analog. You need a special connector to convert it from analog signal to digital signal. Okay. Whereas HDMI display ports, they are all digital native. HDMI, however, provides less refreshing frequency rate, whereas DisplayPort provides you more smooth motion pictures because it provides higher refreshing frequency. Both can support high def signal with their 2.0 standards. SDI is the best, is the industrial standard, but the equipment are expensive comparing to HDMI and DisplayPort. Okay, there are different standards. This one is the old TV standard because they have a long way. They were in TV in broadcast field for like forever. Okay, so they started with SD, then HD. HD is not the 1080p resolution; it's 720p. Then they have 3G. 3G means the bandwidth of the signal. Then 6G, 12G, 24, etc. 24G is capable for handling 8K signal. 12G, that's what they have here, is capable for handling like 4K. But again, your Zoom is not capable typing 4K video. What's the point, right? Probably for future proof. But for me, I don't want to do that because that's too much. You have too much upfront money that you have to pay. So I'm trying to avoid SDI. I'm just standardize all my deployment on HDMI. Okay. Okay. Similarly to what we said about audio, again, you have video splitter. The display controller, however, is another thing. If you have like 4 displays, you have only one signal. You want to have this signal to be displayed on the 4 displays. You can have something called a display controller. There are like the digital wall. I don't know if you saw those things lately, but they are everywhere pretty much, especially in stadium sessions. They are controlled by a display controller, which can convert one of this signal and then split them into different numbers of monitors. Okay? This particular one is 1 to 4 or 1 by 4. So one input, 4 outputs. And then you have the transmitter, receiver that I was talking about, the switcher I was talking about, right? The scaler, if you have a signal that is like low resolution from a VCR, I hope you never heard about this, or DVD, better, or Blu-ray, right? They have 1080p, you have a 4K display. What can you do? If you connect it directly, you will have a crappy image, okay? You have to scale it up digitally using algorithms. You can use a PC to do that, but it's a heavy lifting task. So they have something called a scaler, which has detonated algorithms built in as a DSP to get this scaled up automatically. Content sharing, I'm trying to speed up. Content sharing, after you know audio and video, this is another thing that I did that my faculty liked. What I did was, because I replaced a bunch of whiteboards with TVs, because they are competing objects for the room, right? So I replaced all the whiteboards, replaced them with this. So as you can see, I wrote my name there, etc. What I did was I used the Wacom. This one is crappy, like $600. We used a bunch of those when doing co-ed we ship those things to faculty. They need a annotation solution at home. So we just got those things out for them. So when they have Zoom, they can use those things for whiteboard. Then for this one, for classroom though, instead of have this external display, we have the Wacom mounted here. And then I installed a software. This particular software turned out to be a lifesaver. It's free. It's from Epson. You can download it, you install it, run it, and then it will recognize your Wacom stylus, and you can use that software as a whiteboard. Okay, then everything you can do annotation, you can do on-screen annotation too. So you open a web page, it will freeze up that particular image, and then you can write on top of the web page, etc. Or you can use it in whiteboard mode. And it's compatible with Zoom whiteboard. That entire solution, this one, depending on the particular Wacom device you got, this one is like $2,000, but the software is free, there's no maintenance cost. So that's pretty much all you need, right? Anyhow, so that's what one of the latest installation I did for my classroom. As you can see, I got rid of that, here, I got rid of that whiteboard, physical whiteboard. I replaced it with a 75-inch TV. Everybody was happy. I wrote down my name there. I did a demo, so they were happy. I don't need that. I proved that you don't need that. And the best of it, the software allows you to save whatever you write into PDF format. Okay, so instead of students snapping photos, you can just tell them no need. I will share it on Canvas later, right? Anyhow, we said network is a big deal because everything connects through networks. Okay, here is an IPCP Pro connector. I have some, I forgot. This one has two parts. One has a line. The line is just for your network, so you can actually log into this device. It has a built-in web server that gives you control. Okay, you can type in the IP address, and then you can see how it behaves. You can change. You don't need to physically go to classroom. You can control that device, shut down the AV system remotely. Okay, and then you have AV LAN. AV LAN is a segmented network that only allows this device to connect to your AV equipment. So you have two separate networks on the same device. Okay, that's for security. This one is an old codec. The reason why I pick it is because it had, even that old, you still have AV LAN capable device. This one is back to 10 years old, this particular codec. Okay, that's the chassis that I just showed you, the holodeck. You got 4 codecs linked together through the network. For something like this, electron display, this one. You can connect it, this one is, I think it's PoE device, power over Ethernet, so only one cable provides power and signal. You only, very easy installing. And this is also something called eBus. You just, instead of a dynamic content display, you have just physical buttons to press. So less mistake, easier to prove. That's the only, and cheap. This one will be like $500. This one, depending on the size of the screen. This one, I think, this particular one will be like $2,000, $3,000. Okay. Everything connect to a network switch. Why I mentioned this is because this one provides 4 ports PoE and 4 ports regular. So you can have 4 PoE devices connect to it directly, and everything will just talk. Okay. Just remember, you don't want to put on too much simultaneous communications on the same network, because network has their limitations. 1 giga network, most of the school has 1 giga network. They can handle, depending on resolution, they can handle between 30 to 90 simultaneous communications. More than that, you experience something like dropped calls, freezing up screens, that kind of stuff. Okay. And just bear in mind, they do carry a lot of bandwidth. Okay, you can do Cat5 or Cat6 cables. Cat7 is not standard yet, and it only go 10 gigabit. If you don't have that network infrastructure, you don't need to do that. Cat6 is good enough. Cabling, that's another big thing. Yeah. Give me 5 more minutes. All right. No more Q&A, guys. You can talk to me afterwards.
I think we have done.
All right. Planim and non-planim, meaning whether or not your cable is designed to go underneath and go over. Okay. If you have non-planim cable, they are just regular. They are designed for residential use. They are not commercial grade. All right. The difference is the planim is more residual than the other one. So if you have water or you have very electronic noisy environment, planim is a must. You otherwise will have weird syndromes that you will never want to get into. Okay. You need to tie up everything neat and tight. That's called the structured cabling. It's a big deal. Okay, they have cablers come in just to do that. You, as a DIYer, you're on your own. All right. Then that involves something called tools. You have to, like this one, this is a Cat6 cable, planing grade. You have to have a clamp that can make it into a Cat5 connector or Cat6 connector, right? Then you can plug it in. That gives you the flexibility for cable length. You can customize the cable, right? And most importantly, you need to label your cable. Some of the DIYers, they skip that, and then 5 years or 2 months later, you come back, you forgot which cable is for what. Then you have to run the cable, chasing the cable down, see where it goes, and then figure out why I did that. Okay? I ran into a cable, no, I don't want to say, no, doesn't matter. Yeah. Another thing is, for cabling, don't go cheap, because they stay. Remember, underneath go up, they stay there, okay? Nobody will pull those things out. The good thing about it is, because they are Cat6, so we have Cat5 cables in our building that was put in when the building was constructed, and they still work, so they stay there. Okay, nobody will just get it out. I put in 2 examples here. This one is Cat6. This one is for signal only. Okay, so you can run different control signals through this. They are not cheap. This bundle, this big bundle here, is like $3,000. Yeah, their cable is very expensive. Good cable, I mean. Control, you can do IR, infrared everybody knows. If you have something blocking it, it will not be communicated. Then you have RS-232, RS-485. These are standard control. These are serial ports. GPIO, I have my Raspberry Pi with me. That is what it controls. However, the GPIO only offers negative 5 volts and positive 5 volts. So you need a shifter or level shifter, because serial ports require 17 volts. Okay, negative 17 volts and positive 17 volts. So GPIO is not powerful enough. You need something extra in addition to Raspberry Pi. And then you have USB. You can control different USB devices. We talk about that network. The most important thing is you should sign up to Extron training. I'm not an Extron representative in any way, by anyhow, by any meaning. I'm just a beneficiary of being trained by Extron because they provide free training. I signed up and I went to like 3 days training and then I got my certification and now I'm doing my work by myself. I cut off the middleman, I cut off the vendors. I don't need to talk nonsense to them. I do everything by myself. My dean likes me, so, well, for now. And if some people are struggling between Extron and Crestron, they both are competitors. Extron is more like for educational purposes because they're very big and heavy in this field. Crestron is more like if you have, it's also big and heavy in education field, but if you have, they deal with residential installing. Like if you are a millionaire, you want your home theater system there, that's Crestron, okay? Another thing is, I don't like Crestron is because the vendor, Crestron, does encrypt all the programs. Once it's loaded into your controller, there's no way that you can get it out unless you know the passcode. Extron, they don't do that. So if the vendor disappeared some years after the installation, I'm stuck with that box. Nobody can touch it. I can only do a total renovation on the AV system. That is a disaster, right? Whereas if you're using Extron, you can just log in, get the code, reverse it, reprogram it, make it refeed into your system, right? That's the brain, kind of the small version. They got different flavors, but that's the bare minimum. IPCP Pro 250. I use that from small room to large scale rooms. Sorry, I have to run out of my time. That's a switcher. This one particular one, I think it's $4,000. It just routing different inputs into different outputs for video, and also on the way doing scale it up, scale it down. Okay. I put some recipe here. I will share this with you later on. So for 5 people, small room, you don't need to have a huge investment. 1,500, that's all you need. PC included. Okay. Again, that you have to like put in 20% overhead for physical plant. They are waiting. Anyhow, for medium classrooms under 60 people, I put in the recipe here. You know, depending on the configuration, the minimal, bare minimum, even with DIY attitude, it's still running you 10 grand. Here is one of my job site. I did everything myself. I'm the photographer. So nobody was around me because of COVID. So I did that part. I ran all the cable, put in TVs, and that's the Norveva soundbar microphone. So that's afterwards. I didn't clean up because that's a physical plant thing. They need to clean up. That's another room with 2 TVs on the side. This one, they charged me a lot. The physical plant charged me a lot to replace this whiteboard, so I said forget about it and I just leave it there. But still, we put in the Wacom device that I said, so it's still virtual whiteboard capable. That's for the large group. I have that soundbar here for a large classroom. Another thing is that's for digital signage purposes. Remember the display controller? That's our old entry display board. There's no display, just old billboard, right? To show you our faculty, etc. And I've renovated with a digital signage system that built on XIBO, which is a open source digital signage solution that you can just use it. I put it up there. So, all right. So cost effective, right? Obviously. Typically cut down your cost half, literally. Then security, you need to make sure everything is neat and tight, especially the TVs, the student knows how to do it. They unplug your cables and they run football games, they play Xbox on those things. Just be careful, okay? And the life cycle, everything you do, you need to plan like 10 years, 6 to 10 years life cycle, meaning after 10 years, you need to think about replace them. Sorry, I ran out of time. No Q&A, please. All right. I'm done.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hamm. I'm a multimedia technology and production specialist at University of Richmond School of Law. And thank you, Wei, for a great presentation. I always enjoy your presentations and take notes because I help with technology and always appreciate the new ideas. And so I actually, I really appreciate all the great presentations here at Cali and the opportunity to meet people, especially from all the different law schools and hearing about how you do things and hearing about meeting you and all the wonderful personalities we bring together here for this conference. And unique personalities, backgrounds, and sense of humor that we all have and our shared humanity. And that's, I think, what makes each of our law schools special as well. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint. And so we all inspire each other, and that goes for Cali as well as at our law schools. We have inspiring faculty, we have really interesting students, and we like to try to inspire back and make our environment inspiring for our students and our faculty. And so we feed from each other, feed that inspiration in our day-to-day interactions. So especially after the pandemic, I know we were all really anxious to see each other in person again. There was some anxiety involved with that too, so we also wanted to make it a welcoming place as people were coming back in person. And so in recent years, actually over many years that I've been working at U of R, my job has changed. My role as a multimedia person, an AV guy at U of R has changed. And I'm grateful for the opportunities to expand my role and do creative things. So this is just some shots of the outside courtyard and some various students kind of hanging out together. We love to see that. And we're doing some major renovations in our library and our law school to make that more possible also for people to get together and hang out and share ideas. I am a DJ at a local radio station. It's a nonprofit community radio station called WRIR. And actually my colleague Michael here is also a DJ at WRIR, so he and I share that in common. And one of the things I love about having a radio show is that I love learning about different cultures and playing music from different parts of the world on my radio show. So on that radio show, I try to promote diversity and encourage curiosity about the world. And I bring some of that with me to my role as an AV guy. And I think no matter who we are or what our job description is, we all have opportunities to make our day-to-day lives more meaningful and also celebrate the diversity at our law schools. So I bring some of that with me into my job at U of R. Here's a nice seating area. None of the pictures you're going to see of the library are actually there anymore. We've blown up the whole building and it's going to look so much better. And our screens will look better and nicer too. And we'll probably take some of your tips for that. But you can see one of the screens up there. I have way too many slides. I've drunk way too much coffee and I have very little time to get through all these. So I'm just going to be clicking like crazy here. But you can see the various different screen locations. It's just places where we can put content up. And this is an encouraging message. You can do it. There's a pug climbing a mountain. So my fellow library colleagues and I have been given the freedom over the years to design signs for our digital displays. We use Access TV. It's a software online that we can load our images up and schedule them. And the librarians and staff all got together and had a meeting. Whoops, going too far. We all got together and had a meeting about the various different things that we could promote, not just our resources in the library, but also to celebrate diversity. And in some ways, it's good that this content that we're putting up, the more creative, playful stuff, is temporary, and there's a limited audience because we can try new things, and if it falls on its face, we can just yank that slide and nobody really knew about it. But one thing we've learned along the way is keep the word count down and use colors that show up well on big screens. And sometimes it looks different when you put it on a screen than it did on your computer. Looking back through my hard drive at flyers for this presentation that I made over the years, some of them are great, some of them not so great. Some of them are really corny. But it's all part of the process of figuring out what works and what doesn't. So here's a slide carousel that we wanted to highlight different things in our selection. You can go to our blog, and this is just one of the things to promote the stories behind famous cases. I think we signed up for this. Here's one. We had a tour of the law library and a chance to win lunch with the librarian. So exciting. So I pulled in some of these copyrighted movies from my childhood. Probably dating myself. Hopefully people know what Goonies is, Pee Wee Herman. But we had a Quiet in the Library campaign for during exams, and we tried different ways of getting that message across, so this was one of those. I also like to try to highlight things that are going on outside the law school. We have a beautiful campus and surrounded by pine trees and rolling grassy hills, but you have to get in a car and drive to see the rest of Richmond. So we try to keep students aware of other things going on. This is one of them. Also, the wonderful Indian festival every fall. We also have the folk festival, which is a wonderful thing in Richmond. All kinds of international music, and it's free. So take a study break, go down to Browns Island and see some international music and get some inspiration. This was a thing to promote Stack Map. I think what was the thing where you hold up your phone and try to
Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go, yeah. Yeah, I was kind of going off of that theme with this, but it's actually a wonderful service to find resources in your library, and you can look things up on your phone and it shows you a map. Various resources that we're just trying to get the word out. Take advantage of this. You may not know, but it could help you. We had phone pods, so I did a take on Call Me Maybe. I actually tried to make it look like a karaoke that was sort of in process. And those are some of our staff members. This was to get some counseling if you need it, just to get the word out about counseling. I have fun with the graphics, I love this movie, Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo, so I thought we did this, the librarians were doing study breaks, serving cookies while exams were going on, so I said, hey, you're gonna get served some cookies. This is one of the worst slides I've ever made. Way too much going on here. The spinning rainbow wheel, so frustrating. But we like to, best practices with your computers, reboot, close all those browsers, and back up your data, all kinds of things. This was, I don't know, who knows? Almost every professor at some point plays a clip from My Cousin Vinny, so it's kind of like an inside joke. Ghostbusters theme, Happy Halloween. I even play this sometimes with no sound. I just run this at Halloween. The librarians love it. We wanted to advertise our brand new second floor that is already completed. So we did an open house. Here's the elevator always has problems, so I was going to call that an elevator action. The blue book, theme on blue. This is all just crazy stuff, but we also did some more serious stuff, like pulling from our archives. Did you know that the first woman to graduate from our, we no longer call it T.C. Williams, that's a whole nother story, and one worth reading about, but I won't go into it now. But the first woman to graduate from U of R School of Law is Frances Farmer. These are old slides, that's why some of them have old, outdated data. But yeah, doing the renovations and looking back at how the library looked in the 50s is pretty interesting. This is just, we create this content to build an interesting environment as you're walking through the library. So during renovations, we try to explain, don't worry, the books are coming back. We did a tech training thing, and we actually had, this was for faculty, not students, but we had some microbrews that we were serving, and we actually, we try to give an incentive to get people to show up, but just having fun here. Judge a book by its cover. I think this was our library director Roger's idea, and we just pulled a whole bunch of really interesting books that we wanted to promote. This was another quiet in the library during exams. I love Wallace and Gromit. More pop culture stuff, this one's way too busy. Like, it's just, yeah, that's hard to look at. But I'm a big fan of Japanese Dekotora trucks. They're like really blinged out tractor trailers, so I got an opportunity to throw that in for our e-waste day. This is just a nice farewell for the summer. Just trying to put some visual stuff up on the screen that makes it more fun to walk through the library and see on a day-to-day basis. Also, one of our librarians, Alex Hutchings, is also a really creative graphic designer, and he's really upped our game as far as graphics go. And it's nice to be able to share creative duties with the librarians. So a lot of our librarians have software for video editing, and we all share some of those tools here too. I think a couple of the presentations yesterday had some really good tools, so I'll be trying those out. This is Holi. There's actually some students who celebrated Holi and outside, and they brought clothes to change into afterwards, but this was a cool picture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in a library, so I thought this was appropriate for Martin Luther King Day. More pop culture, there's the pug, Mac the Adventure Pug. Alex Hutchings, there's Alex, and he just has an amazing knack for graphic design, so I wanted to show off some of the stuff. These are some of the flyers that he's made for. And he also comes up with great ideas for events to engage with the students. These are a few of them. We also did banned books. We actually had a TV, and Alex used like spray foam and lights and made it look like the ground was on fire around one of our screens, and then highlighting various books that had been banned at one point for this. I just love, he made this, and it's still in his office. He plugged it in for the photo. But it's just amazing, so creativity. His job title doesn't say, please make amazing, foam, like movie props, but he can do it. So he organizes Sunshine Week and brings in speakers to talk about access to FOIA requests, that kind of thing. So these are always really popular talks. Some of them have been zoomed in, some of them in person. And then Constitution Day, Alex also organized this and got lined up the speakers, and there's usually a raffle or some sort of cake involved too. But just amazing ideas coming out of Alex's brain. And one of them also was a student selfie contest. And there were prizes, and it was really popular. So actually after this contest was over, Alex made a collage of all the amazing selfies that the students had done while they were studying. So this is the winner for this year. Mimi and Savannah in the park studying in the snow. So I think it's just wonderful. Here's some flyer that Alex did for Prepare to Practice. That's another series that our librarians do. This was one that Alex made. I thought it was just great. It's a multi-denominational holiday that we can all share. And then showing off our faculty's publications. I know I'm running out of time, so I'll be faster here. But Daniel, every year, just really spent a whole lot of time making slides that showed where it was published, usually a picture of the book, and there were hundreds of these running on a cycle, and I can't really say that students stopped and stared for very long at these, but it's just something that's going on in the background that, like, if you look over, oh wow, look, Professor Dalin wrote a really cool article, maybe I'll look that up and check it out. So, celebrating diversity, that's another thing, especially in recent years. It's just, cross-cultural competency has been a term that a lot of universities have been focusing on. And I think it's great that, I'm really proud that we, over the years, have been making conscious steps to be more inclusive and celebrate diversity. As I mentioned earlier, it's something I enjoy. I love learning from different people and hearing their stories about their backgrounds. So, but as Spider-Man once said, with great power there must also come great responsibility. And cross-cultural competency is, we're all works in progress. It never ends. The learning never ends. And we all have our implicit biases. But from day to day, we may feel disillusioned at things going on in the world, but we all have opportunities to do meaningful things in small ways or bigger ways. And part of that is reaching out and collaborating with people, not just thinking, as one person that you're gonna go out and Google something and know everything there is to know about it and then teach everyone about it. You have to ask others for input. So another great thing, so we all met as a library team and decided, let's celebrate Black History Month, let's celebrate Women's History Month, let's celebrate Native American Heritage Month, Arab American Heritage Month, Jewish American Heritage Month, Hispanic American Heritage Month. There's a month for everything. Some also might argue that, for Black History Month, it's the shortest day of the year, and why aren't we doing it all year? So I think there's some validity to that. I think we should always be celebrating culture throughout the year, and all the different cultures. So these were some slides that we did for Black History Month. Sorry, I'm skipping through them. No disrespect to the people featured here, but these are cycling throughout the month. And I think it's wonderful. If nothing else, Black History Month is a wonderful excuse to put up great slides about great Black leaders, attorneys, lawyers, and figures of culture. And some of them, so the part about collaboration was that we reached out to a bunch of the student orgs and asked for their suggestions on who would you think might be important to highlight. Some of those are local attorneys and local leaders, and some are international. Of course, the founders of Black Lives Matter here. I also, at one point, I made a mistake. I put up a slide for Muhammad Ali that turned out it was Alvin Ailey. And I was so ashamed that I had made that mistake. But it was actually pointed out to us by one of the members of the Black Law Students Association. And it not only made me realize that, hey, students are actually looking at these, but it gave me an opportunity to make a connection with someone in Balsa. And so, as I mentioned, I'm sorry I'm a little disorganized, but some of the slides that were suggestions from the student orgs, we put the student org logo up on the slide. One of our professors, Professor Stubbs and Professor Wingfield, she goes by Wingfield now, not Wingfield Smith, they actually helped publish the memoirs of this amazing attorney, a Black attorney who was part of Hill Tucker Marsh, who they argued one of the cases that would comprise Brown v. Board of Education. Also, Oliver Hill, there was a book that Professor Stubbs helped publish about the amazing civil rights attorney Oliver Hill, who argued that case and spoke at the law school several times. These are local leaders that we were trying to highlight. This is something that happened in Richmond in Prince Edward County that was part of that case that I mentioned. Also, for Native American Heritage Month, this was the first slide I made, and then in subsequent years we made a whole bunch of different slides, but this is actually a lady who I met through Airbnb in my old neighborhood in Brooklyn, and she had posted this on her Instagram, so I reached out and said, hey, can I put that up on our screen for Native American Heritage Month? It's amazing. And she said, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then we made a whole bunch of different slides. Alex and I collaborated on this. Alex made these beautiful backgrounds, so really made them look a lot better and more uniform. And yeah, so there's so much here. I don't want to skip through it, but I want you to see all the things I'm talking about here. We decided to highlight local tribes. There's more than 10, and I try to do a slide for each one. In the process, the other great thing is that I'm learning. We're all learning. The staff who participate in making this content, we learn in the process. And the first year I ran these slides, some of the wording was a little weird because I had lifted it from Wikipedia. So it's important to really look closely at how you're wording things, especially when dealing with you're talking about a culture that maybe it's not your culture. So we're trying to be really careful to represent things fairly and accurately, but also bring some honor and respect to the diversity, again, even just in Virginia. I reached out to a local chief of the Nansemond Nation, Chief Anderson, because I had seen him with the dance group during a parade, the Red Crooked Sky Dancers. And I also saw an amazing photo of him on his Instagram, asked him if I could use it. He sent me these photos. I made an amazing slide. I sent it back to him. I said, what do you think? And I never heard back from him. So I think he's pretty busy being the leader here, and I'm just a chief. So I decided to wait until I heard back from him. But I also thought it might be nice to invite him to campus at some point to talk about land acknowledgements. These were his suggestions, some topics he might discuss: land acknowledgements, sovereignty, and maybe a performance by that dance troupe. Here's some of the women's history slides. Sorry, I'm skipping through these way too quickly. But you see the logos from, these are two different student orgs. If, When, How, and Richmond Women's Law submitted these ideas. And there's also the backgrounds, the people in the backgrounds are Ellen Ochoa, Sojourner Truth, and I lost the other one. Well, keep going. Oh, another great thing is that Alex figured out that we could put these slides up as a slideshow on our blog. So they're archived. So if you miss it while you're walking by, you can go back and look at them. Also, for our Law Library Digest, I have sort of a lot of freedom to pick an image that sometimes has some deeper meaning. This is just some examples, and then the spine was inspired by the look of a spine of a law journal. This is Oliver Hill and Henry Marsh, and then one of the students who is also related to Henry Marsh here, I forget her name, but she's an alum. This is our Muse News blog. So this is an example of, so each year Alex invites a member of the Women's Law, Richmond Women's Law Student Association to write a blog for Women's History Month. We have our newsletter. Alex does an amazing facepalm part of the every month of this newsletter that's sort of has some tongue-in-cheek and some sarcasm and wit. I helped BALSA, the Black Law Students Association, redesign their logo. They came up with some of the basics, and then I just cleaned it up for them. These are all things. This was a project, actually a hypothetical that Roger Skalbeck, who's teaching copyright, had me do a take on the Great Wave off Kanagawa, which is a famous woodblock print. But he was trying to say, okay, what if you take this really old thing that is, you know, an original work, and then someone tries to make T-shirts or something out of it? What would you do in this scenario? So I had fun with this. The students hate it because it's kind of ugly. But this was, speaking of AI, I want to go back. A lot of people have talked about AI during this conference, and one of the things that luckily AI can't duplicate yet is our unique personalities, our compassion, our humor. I think it can try to recognize jokes, but it's probably still having a hard time with that. So we are irreplaceable with all the things that we bring to our jobs. But this was an actual AI-related event. Roger generated these images and then wanted me to turn it into a flyer for the event. So I helped do that. This was Quiet in the Library campaign. There's various staff members who do crazy, wild, and sometimes very loud things, but not in the library. This was a DVD case they made for a retirement for these various professors. We also have an AV cart that we made with some, to sort of bring legal research and tech tips out of the library and sort of come to where the students are. And Alex's idea was to have a punch card that gets you into a raffle. And basically they're just 3-minute legal research or tech tips out in the hallway catch them as they're going by to class. So this is Alex in action with the students, and we all take turns as staff signing up and training people. And then obviously hybrid events are not going away, but they're a great way to bring in many wonderful diverse speakers who might not be able to make it in person. And that is another way to support diversity, I think, to bring in. So there's, this was Black Judges. The event was a feature on Black judges and specifically judges. And this is a wonderful event for the Black Law Students Association that highlights amazing Black leaders and judges. So that was a really interesting panel, and they're all so different, their personalities and their backgrounds as well. So it was interesting to hear about their journey to become judges. This was a slide, I made a slideshow for our Juvenile Justice Symposium, which is the Shepherd Conference, the Shepherd Symposium. But I made this and many other slides featuring information about the guy who that symposium was named after, which we never do for this symposium. So this year I asked Julie McConnell, why don't we do some slides about Robert Shepherd? Because he was, you know, he's part of why we do this symposium. And that, you know, it was all online, 400 attendees, but during the intermission, that allowed people who were out there to learn a little bit about Robert Shepherd. So this is, okay, I'm done, almost done. Sorry. This is wonderful. One of the newer, there have been some new student orgs that have just formed recently, since even in the past couple of years. One of them is SALSA, the South Asian Law Students Association. And the leader or president of that group decided to organize a multicultural night. This was the first year, and this was a flyer for the second year. And she involved all the different affinity groups, and everyone dressed up and brought food. And Anna, who's the president from Salsa, said, "Hey Carl, I know you DJ Bollywood parties and you do some K-pop. Why don't you play some international music for this multicultural night?" I said, "Well, that's great. I would love to." And I was very excited, but I said, "You know, but why don't we make a collaborative playlist for all the students to submit songs that they might want to hear?" So that was great, because then I learned some great music. And this was one of the most widely attended events in recent years, and definitely the most diverse. And Anna, especially thanks to Anna and Bushra for just putting so much into the preparation, all the flags, the confetti, and each of the presidents of each of the affinity groups spoke. So people had tables set up with, there's my DJ set up. Oops. Yeah, people brought food, like amazing food. I'll end with a picture of the food. And here's a banner that they made for people to write quotes. So all little things that we can do, it all adds up. And I think as long as we're making an effort, we might not be perfect, but at least we're trying. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Oh. I look like
I think that email would be more. I've been doing DIY
I'm just doing a simple, so I'm excited to get to know you. Yeah, my name's Hallie. I'm going to be running the community design out there. And I actually clerked for Judge Gregory in Richmond. It was very
Oh, that's awesome.
lovely, nostalgic. I'm also